All right, it's about that time. All right, so we've already got 9 live watchers. That is so awesome. So just wanted to hop on and talk and we're talking comics, we're talking Star Wars, we're talking Loki, anything and everything that's going on in comics. We're going to be talking about it because honestly, it has been an insane week, an insane month, and I mean we're only a couple days in, and I mean my panelist who's going to be on with us hit Crosshair on nail on the head, like perfect. But before we do anything, we got to hit that intro.
The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves. Earth's mightiest heroes.
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
All right, what is up, VK?
How's it going?
It's going good. Let's just say hello to everyone who is here. Worldwide Comics, thank you for joining. Cosmic Campfire, thank you. Cosmic Campfire, that's Ryan, new guy Ryan. Change your name, buddy? I like it. Max Comics, what is up?
Max, how's it going? Welcome.
Comicade, yeah, you know Max from
Around the Way, auctions, we do business, we talk.
I've seen Max on a couple auctions. I know she was on Meta's a week or two ago, selling some pretty awesome books. Comicade, good to see you. Blue Devils, good to see you. Professor Comics, what is up, buddy? How's that Venom 3 treating you from the dollar bin? And Titan Comic Pressing, how's it going? It was awesome talking to you. I think we're gonna have a really wonderful live very soon. We kind of talked about like what we could do live and what we can't do live. So that was definitely fun. Peanut Butter, good to see you. All right. So first things first, I was talking to Titan and VK. I've been talking to you and then a couple people in our community group chat, and pressing is huge in the comic community. So
And a must these days.
yeah. And honestly, my biggest piece to speak about it, because it really jumped up the grade that much. I got from a mystery box an Omega Red first appearance, Omega Red or X-Men 4, and I also got an X-Men 5. And they were both looking about the same shape, but the 4 looked like it had more pressable defects, and it was sitting at about a 9.0.
And when you say what do you exactly mean by that? Was it waviness or was it a
cover was a little wavy? There was no color breaks.
Okay.
And there was like a little bit of not like folds, but just kind of, you could tell it had been read once or twice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a spine roll. So it just needed a good cleanup and it needed a good press. And I'm glad that I spent that money, because it went from what we predicted to be about a 9 to 9.2 all the way up to a 9.8. And I actually raffled that off as one of the first comics I ever sold for about $150.
Nice.
So, I mean, it was a ton of fun. I honestly couldn't find a buyer, and that was back in November. I was looking to get 150 shipped, and it was what?
For 9.8?
Yeah, for a 9.8.
Yeah.
And then
that's what I was buying them for back then too.
And then you get it all the way in January, February, and then it goes into March, and Falcon Winter Soldier goes up, and that thing just skyrocketed. Yeah.
And also too, a lot of the publishers, the quality of the paper is not like it used to be. I don't want to sound like a cranky old dude. Back in my day, it's true. The comics today, even when you get them off the rack, there's like a little bit of waviness. So everybody should definitely find a good clean impressor and have them in your Rolodex.
I can't remember what book it was that I was just looking at. I think I want to say it was Black Widow. Yes. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on the screen, but can you see that little bit of waviness, just like how it's?
Yeah, you can literally see it.
Yeah, like just a nice little wave to it. And I mean, obviously, it's not going to bring it down too much because hopefully it will just kind of flatten out when you put it into a bag and board, and that will kind of press it out. But honestly, the presser I go through is local. I sent you his link.
Yeah.
Selling Comics. If anyone wants to go check him out, it's literally sellingcomics.com. Excellent guy. He runs Retro Recollectibles, and he worked for Kodak and learned how to do everything that he does with comics through paper conservation that he learned and did at Kodak for years and years and years. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely a resume you want for your presser.
Definitely. Is that a printing error? Honestly, I think it's more of a shipping error. I want to say it's more on Diamond than anything else.
More like a
same
comic publishing error in buying too thin a paper.
Yeah. Same with like when you get the rubbing along here and it starts to turn white.
Yeah.
That's also more shipping than anything else. But yeah, that the paper quality's gone down too. Peanut Butter saying hello to everyone. But anyways, so I want to get back to kind of talking about comics. And first of all, there is so much that just happened in comics recently. So where would you like to start, VK?
Let's see. The biggest we could start with Loki. We could start with Eternals. We could start with Bad Batch. Pick your poison. There's so much out there.
I honestly say we start with Loki.
Let's do it. Let's start with it.
So Loki theories, if you have any in the chat, let us know. Let's talk about it. Personally, I think that this is going to be one of the more minor Disney Plus shows. And what I mean by that is just kind of they're getting Loki's story out there. They're introducing the multiverse. They're introducing little bits and pieces. This might not affect the overall MCU. It might just have like a little bit of an explaining type of thing. What is up, Alex? Alex Garcia, the person who won these books did not claim them, so they are yours, buddy.
Wow.
I mean, if you don't claim them, they go to the next person.
I took some of the clues in Loki as it's adding to a couple of the other Marvel streams. I felt this Loki show would help explain a little bit more of the multiverse to help everybody understand, because even jumping on the stream before the stream, I always do my research. I always, get a little bit educated and, make sure I'm up on all the eggs and tips and tricks, And I was at the end, I was like, wow, there is a lot of moving parts to Loki, because you have Loki, you have Kid Loki, you have Lady Loki, and then you have Loki variants.
Yeah.
There's a scene where when I was doing my research, there's a scene where Loki's wearing that Vote for Loki pin.
Mm-hmm.
That's one variant. And then in that same scene, they showed a shot where Loki was in that shot, but he was in his TVA uniform. So I'm like, great.
So do you think it's going to be, you think those are going to be all different variants, or do you think that they're going to be different like Loki kind of doing what he does, where he kind of does those quick changes with magic.
Glad you brought that up. So if you look at when the show comes on, it says Loki.
Yeah.
And if you notice, the Loki letters all change. Did you notice that?
I love that part about it.
I think that represents really almost the basis of the show. It's a show of the different Lokis and his travel through the universe and how he fixes what he did when he took the Tesseract.
That's a good. I like that theory because, like I said, I think that, and Comicade's saying it perfectly. I think it's going to be a lot of timeline correction too. I think that's a perfect way for them to go with it. And I agree with you. I think this is meant to explain the little things. It's meant for us to kind of find out a little bit more about certain things and for us to kind of get into more. I actually have one of the Vote Loki books that I picked up just because it was a cool cover. And I was like, you know what? I don't have too much Loki in my collection. I love him as a character in the MCU. I want to see what he's all about in the comics. And obviously, his comic stuff is just way priced out of range.
A lot of it.
It's just he's one of those originals. He is an OG Marvel villain. And
I'm still eyeing a couple of the Loki, like Loki's second appearance, Loki's origin. Some of those books you can still maybe pick up in a decent grade for like $500 to $1,000. So kind of eyeing a couple of those. But I'm back to the show. I really like how it kind of got a little bit more. You're getting more and more clips. You know, they showed a little bit more of Ravonna Renslayer and how the judge, and it looks like they're almost doing a little bit of what is it called when little kids get in trouble with the police and then they got to go work it off. You know what I mean, right?
Not like parole, but
go work it off. It seems like Loki
community service.
Yeah, that's it. It seems like Loki has community service for the Time Variance Authority because it seems like they gave him a jacket, little symbol, and they're like, okay, you're going to help us fix the time variance. Would you help mess up?
And if you notice, he's even got a little TVA belt buckle too. Comicade's saying not different Lokis, it's him, but different roles he puts on. Kind of a quantum leap for the MCU.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
But they are, you can call it different roles. You can call it different roles or different Lokis. You know, but they actually, Renslayer actually says the word variant, Loki variant. You know, and so I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's interesting to see how they're like the language that Marvel's choosing in each trailer. They're keeping it very low key, not Loki, but low key. Whoops. But they're also like dropping massive hints in the language choices they're making. And as we all know, Marvel does nothing by accident. But at the same time, they're trying to drop these Easter eggs in without us seeing it. But they're not as good. Like the person who's directing Loki is nowhere near as good as James Gunn is with Easter eggs. James Gunn is probably one of the best Easter egg directors in the entire MCU. And honestly, in my opinion, one of the best Easter egg directors in the world. I honestly don't think that there's another director out there who drops as many Easter eggs that are very hard to find inside a movie. I mean, chat, correct me if I'm wrong, and VK, correct me if I'm wrong, but he does it phenomenally.
No, I haven't really noticed the difference between directors and Easter eggs, but it's an interesting, and I'll have to keep an eye on it. But do you think it's mostly the directors that do that? I always thought it was the higher ups.
And it might be the higher ups, but whenever they talk about it, like whenever James Gunn talks about his Easter eggs, he's even said, I think it's volume 2 of Guardians, he said there's still an Easter egg that no one's found. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we've gone over this over and over again, and he could totally be screwing with us. He could be saying that there's one and there really isn't, because he's James Gunn and that's what he does. I would love to just sit down and have coffee with the guy for 5 hours straight, because I feel like we could talk about anything and everything, and just he's that personable kind of guy who can talk to anyone. And I mean, he's a phenomenal director too. He's the only reason I want to watch Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, good point.
But
what's your take on? Well, I guess they had to do the different Lokis because, you know, Thanos snapped his neck, and then the next thing you know, he's got the Tesseract.
Yeah.
Am I right in that? Am I right in the timeline?
He jumps out of time before or after, technically.
Okay. All right.
In the way time works, it technically happens before, but it truly happens after, because this isn't the Loki that we know in 2019 who got his neck, or 2019 who got his neck snapped. It's the one from 2012 in Avengers who was about to get arrested. So it's a totally different Loki jumping out of time than the Loki Prime, as they call it.
Now, this is exactly what I'm a little concerned about, because if we have to work at keeping it straight, how is the average person off the street going to understand the Loki show?
Oh, this show is total fan service for Loki. And honestly, I think that you've got Tom Hiddleston fangirls who are going to watch it just because it's Tom Hiddleston.
And he's an amazing actor. He's crushes.
He could play 1,100 different variants of Loki and make them all seem completely different. He could play the female version of Loki and make it seem believable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then you've got your Marvel fanboys who know what they're watching because they've been doing this since they were born. You've got your MCU fanboys, who I put into two different camps just because, like, I'm more of an MCU fan because that's where I got started in comics.
Me too.
Like, because of the MCU, I got into comics. There's a lot of people who, because of comics, they got into the MCU. So I kind of split them up, even though they truly are one and the same almost.
I understand what you're saying, though. So I'm the same way. I was into comics, but I went hardcore because of MCU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have like that general audience. So, I mean, you're already hitting 4 before you get to the general audiences. And I mean, are your general audiences really going to be watching the Disney Plus shows?
Oh, they want that general audience because that's where this is.
For sure. I mean, definitely.
I just don't know how they're going to do it when it's like you and me are like going, okay, all right. So we got this. And then, you know what I mean? It's like,
I feel like Zach Galifianakis in that one movie where all the numbers are floating around and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was one talk, kind of like a Cosmic Wonder kind of stream that talks about it, talk about the Easter eggs. They were mentioning it's either going to be female Loki, which I think it's definitely going to be female Loki popping in, or Enchantress. Yeah. But there was a scene where that the woman with the hood, who they think is Enchantress or female Loki, the way she was fighting, it's definitely female Loki.
Yeah. And I also saw something where someone thought, I think it might have been Cosmic Wonder too. He pointed out that could be Loki talking to Black Widow on Vormir. I don't think that's the case. I think that is Loki talking to female Loki.
See, that's where all the MCU fanboys get a little too bit ahead of themselves, and we start doing another Mephisto mistake. You know what I mean? Just take it for face value. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, don't dig and don't try to, there's a shadow and it's shaped like, it's like
kind of like episode 2 of WandaVision where there was that little helmet. Oh, that's got to be Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you're going to have Mephisto, Nightmare, Grim Reaper. You've got Agatha Harkness. You've got Omega Red's going in there somewhere. Doctor Strange should be in. You've got 6 different people all in this one show, and we're gonna do that all in 9 Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, speaking of news, and there's so much news, you know what I mean? It's like what to talk about.
Yeah.
They admitted that Doctor Strange was supposed to be in WandaVision.
I saw that.
Cut it.
And I wonder why that was. Was that a COVID change? Was that because they just couldn't get any more people on the set? Because, I mean, that was one of the reasons why the end scene was so kind of fast. That ending show, that ending fight scene. And you see a couple characters kind of make an appearance and then disappear shortly after the end of the fight because they had filmed some stuff, but they didn't really film that ending and the fight until COVID all went down. And they kind of had to say, okay, what do we really need to tell this story? And I think that he was just one of those ones that were kind of like, okay, do we really need Doctor Strange to come into this? Is that going to confuse people? Is that going to be detrimental? Or can that be kind of the start of Multiverse of Madness? And I think that they're just kind of going to swing what he would have done or said into Multiverse of Madness with him kind of showing up at that little cabin that Wanda's creating an astral projection in.
And also, too, the whole streaming platform blew up because of COVID, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think the studios and production companies are still trying to figure out the best way to use the streaming services.
Definitely.
And I'm starting to think that they're going to use the streaming services as almost as a little minor league camp for the major league camp movies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw that a little bit with Netflix and Marvel.
When I think of Doctor Strange coming in WandaVision, I almost get the inkling like it kind of waters down the cachet of Doctor Strange. You know what I mean? Like
a little bit, yeah.
Keep them.
You've got your A level, you've got your B level.
Yeah.
Keep the A's up here, keep the B's down here.
I'm getting that kind of feeling, like I think they're going to start, I think they were going to go, okay, it's COVID, streaming service, we got no movies, we're going to have to put Doctor Strange in there. And then they went, oh, wait a minute. Things are starting to open up. We're starting to hear back vaccines. Let's keep Doctor Strange in the film. And just, we got Harkness, we got WandaVision, we got the kids, we got Vision, we got Spectrum, Monica Rambeau's daughter. It's like we got enough superheroes in this one. And
so let's go off of that. I want to move on from Loki because I feel like there's a lot of theories, but not a lot of content to go off of. Yeah. And I want to go into Marvels because that was announced this week. And this is a kind of a quick conversation because I feel like you're going to get 3 Marvels out of this, which we already kind of know, but based on the title, we can kind of start assuming who Monica Rambeau is in the MCU. We never got a name of her superhero name. So if you look,
because we got the mother's name.
Yep.
When she was walking, the mother's name was Photon.
Yes.
There was a plaque. So she has to be Spectrum.
She has to be.
Yeah.
And now with the title, we now know that obviously we've got Captain Marvel. And we know with the S at the end, it's going to be Miss Marvel.
Just 1 second. But now we're talking about WandaVision, so let's not go too much on the WandaVision.
But we're going to get the S with the Miss Marvel. And then if you look at the A, it's not Photon. It's not that other, can't remember what name she went by in the middle there.
Spectrum, Captain Marvel.
What was it before Spectrum, though?
Photon.
There was one in the middle somewhere.
Anybody in the chat? Anyone?
There was something that Monica Rambeau went by for a very small amount of time when someone stole her Photon moniker before she became Spectrum.
Yeah.
And she had a very similar costume to Photon. And then you go to Spectrum and you look at the logo on her costume. It looks nothing like Photon. And all of a sudden, the Marvel's A has the Spectrum logo on it. So if you're looking for some spec to buy, Mighty Avengers #1 is going for about $20 right now on eBay.
I can't even believe it's still cheap.
Yeah, I honestly,
All right.
Pulsar.
Oh,
Yep.
man, you beat me to it, Titan. Good job. Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel, Photon, Pulsar, Daystar, Scepter, Lady of Light, Monica Marvel, Sun Goddess, and Spectrum. Wow. Okay.
I found that out on Bry's Comics. If you ever want to see a good channel who talks about a lot of spec,
Yeah.
doesn't really talk much MCU, but talks about the comics, talks about where he thinks comics are going and all of that. I found on his channel he was talking about Marvels, so that's how I found that out. I just honestly completely blanked. She has more personalities than Moon
Knight. She's got to be careful. WandaVision's going to like do a little bit of her thing here, and she's going to be like, woo.
So Comicade's asking, can you really call Loki B level?
I'm not calling Loki B level, not necessarily. What I'm just saying is guys like Thor, Doctor Strange, I feel like it's going to take away a little bit of their character and their cachet and their persona and their image if they put them in a Disney Plus show.
And we don't really need a Doctor Strange origin story the way we needed a Scarlet Witch origin story. Right. We don't really need a Falcon, or we need a Falcon origin story and how he becomes Captain America and the internal battle and the external battle and the this and the that. I feel like with Loki, he's not B level. Falcon's not B level. I think when we say B level, we're not talking like your typical B squad. We're talking about those ones who no one really knew before your MCU fanboys weren't out going, wow, when's Falcon going to show up? They were saying, okay, when are we going to see Hulk in the MCU? When are we going to see Captain America? Like, if you've got Iron Man, we're eventually going to see someone who is going to fight him. Captain America and Iron Man butt heads all the time. If we're going to get Avengers, we want to see this person. When are we going to get Ant-Man? When are we going to get, like you said, Thor? Like, those are your kind of characters that we're expecting no matter what. And then you've got these characters who are kind of like, okay, I know who they are. I've heard of them before, but I don't know much about them. And I feel like that's where Disney Plus is going to go. Honestly, if Guardians of the Galaxy came out during the Disney Plus era, it could have been a Disney Plus show and not a movie, simply because a lot of people had no clue who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. And even the one they came out with, my dad was saying, that's not my Guardians. Like, I loved Guardians growing up. That's not my Guardians. But I mean, could you have a better Guardians team than what they put together on screen?
I know.
Like,
yeah, I know. And I'm surprised. Well, I don't want to digress. Let's keep on. That's what I was saying, Comic Kid. I just think like they figured out a game plan. They figured out a good. I don't know how to put this. You know, let's put in the some of the characters that we want to blow up or we want to push into the streaming services. See how the public reacts to these characters, and if it goes good, boom, to the movies.
And also, who can be the face of this to that? Like, Scarlet Witch Wanda is going to be the new face of whatever they want her to be the face of. Is she going to be a mutant in the MCU, or is she just going to be the Scarlet Witch? And they kind of needed to feel out that market for all of that before they jump straight into Multiverse of Madness. If we jump straight into it and we didn't get a whole lot of explanation, that would have been horrible. I feel like with Loki, again, this is going to be a major explanation show. We're going to get a lot of meat in this show. We really don't need a villain because we know that Loki's his own worst enemy. We know right off the bat that Loki is just out to get everyone, but he also doesn't always know which way to go, which side to be on, and he also wants to be on his own side because truly deep down he loves himself more than anything in the world.
Well, he also has, you know, a little bit of the little brother complex, you know, redheaded stepchild complex, and he's trying to prove himself.
You kids these days with your Star Lords and Groots. Groot.
Oh, you're a big Groot fan?
Yeah.
I'll give you a hug. I heard there's gonna be more Groot.
When he came out, I was like, okay, because I'm a huge Vin Diesel fan. I think that Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, when I heard they were going to be in Guardians, even with Vin Diesel only having 3 words to say, he nailed it. I mean, in all honesty, like, that took a lot of acting, because the amount of inflection you have to have, the amount of like everything, and then to not even be able to see that person's face, to have everything be CGI, that took a lot. And I mean, Groot was just an awesome character. And I found the funniest part of Guardians 1, well, not the funniest, but one of the funniest that kind of just made me laugh so hard was when Rocket said, well, we're going to split it 4 ways. And then Groot wakes up and he goes, of course, asleep for the danger, awake for the money. And I was like, okay, Groot's my spirit animal. But anyways, as you were saying with Groot.
Yeah, I heard there's not going to be any more Groot after this. Or was it Rocket?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
It might be Rocket. I can see them killing Rocket off.
Groot. Maybe the chat can help. I heard it's Groot or Rocket. There's going to be no more.
Okay. Any appearances in Loki, Thor, Sif, someone else? That's so tough to say.
Enchantress?
Yeah.
That's the thing that comes into my mind is Enchantress.
The only thing I can think of is, like you said, Enchantress. I think that would be a good reveal. I think it's got to be someone who is going to be in Love and Thunder that they haven't done yet. I don't think it will be Jane Foster. I don't think that she'll be Lady Thor in this. That would be way too big for this show, and it's not on the path that they're taking in anything that we've seen so far. But I think to kind of come up with someone who can kind of push the MCU forward while still telling a Loki story, I think that's who we could see. I don't have a name right off the top of my head, simply because, again, we don't have a whole lot of meat to Loki.
Yeah,
it's all like
the same thing. I was like, there's nothing. It's like, it's just up in the air. It's like, okay, I guess I'll just sit and be entertained.
And I'm pretty sure Sif is dead. Am I right in saying that?
Black hair? No, I don't think she is.
I thought she got killed in Ragnarok.
I think she's coming back in Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Let me look real quick. Google is your friend.
While you're looking that up, Offer Adam, good to see you, buddy. We've got 6 live watchers right now. Best Groot moment. We are Groot. Agreed.
Smash that like button, peeps.
Definitely. And if you have not already subscribed, please make sure to subscribe. We are at 550 right now, after just doing our 500 subscriber giveaway 2 days ago and announcing it a little over 1 week ago. We went from 500 to 550 almost overnight, and it was so much fun to do that. Let's keep up with the amazing growth, and pretty soon I'm going to have a pretty big announcement, so share this so that way we can get that announcement out to a lot of people very quickly. But go ahead.
Thor 4 is bringing back Lady Sif. We've known that for a while now. Marvel fans are understandably excited to see Jamie Alexander make a long-awaited MCU return as the powerful Asgardian. What's more, will be her first Marvel film appearance since 2013's Thor: Dark World. Is Thor in Love and Thunder Thor 4?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well, if you count Dark World as a Thor movie. Some people don't.
We'll say Lady Sif returning to Thor: Love and Thunder, Collider, December 11th, 2020. They say yes.
Okay.
So.
Good to know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maverick says we're going to get a Mephisto appearance. I agree. He's got to show up somewhere. We'll just keep saying that he's going to show up.
Oh, okay, you're messing with me. I'm like,
We'll probably get an Omega Red appearance too. Let's keep that book on the rise.
I know I am sitting on 10 copies.
Some Wrecking Crew would be good in Loki. They're too small fry for a movie, great for a show. Honestly, I wish that they would have saved Crossbones for a show. I didn't like how they did him. The way that
I can't believe they didn't have Crossbones in Falcon Winter Soldier.
yeah, well, they killed him.
A reference or something. And
Yeah.
what's very cool, I know the guy that plays Crossbones.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Frank Grillo.
okay. You met him in real life and all that,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Like,
That's
when I
awesome.
see him, like he knows me by first name. Like I even
That's so cool.
At Venice Gold, I said, dude, I'm gonna bring a bunch of books and I want you to sign them. He's like, okay.
So past point, we did just confirm that Sif is coming back for Love and Thunder. I don't think that we're going to see her in Loki. I think Loki, we're going to see a lot of characters that we just have never seen before.
You think we'll get cameos? Because I don't think we're gonna get cameos.
I don't think we'll get cameos. I think we'll get like small things, like people who just don't matter. They're one-off characters.
Yeah.
Kind of like how
Renslayer.
Battlestar
Yeah,
was for Falcon. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get a big name like Battlestar, but I do think that we're going to get something on those lines where you know who it is. They've been in the comics, but they really don't push anything forward. They're just kind of there to kind of be a comic character in a way.
Agreed.
Renslayer obviously is a big one that I feel like is going to be the villain, but again, it's Loki. Who knows?
Why do we need another villain though?
Yeah.
I think Loki's is an amazing huge villain.
Yeah. I agree. I thought first off that Loki was going to be the villain of his own show, and he not only would be the title character, but he would also be his own worst enemy. And I mean, we could see, you never know, we could also see variants versus Prime. We could see him trying to find Prime and trying to get Prime back into the Prime timeline. I'm not sure.
Oh, you think that they're gonna have the different Lokis like interact with each other?
Yeah. I think the only reason to have a ton of variants would be for them to kind of work with each other and to kind of play off of each other. I think that Loki knows everything. He's very smart. He's one of the highest IQs in the MCU on a different kind of level than just being smart, but being like that tricky kind of smart, like that very, what was that?
Cunning.
Yes, exactly. He's like the Fox of the MCU.
Yeah.
He knows how to get stuff done. And for him to not know that he's a variant, or for him to not know that there's more of him out there, like this is not his first time traveling through time, obviously. Mm-hmm. This is not the first time that the TVA's been after him, because they know him more than he knows himself in a way. Right. And I feel like they're going to kind of reveal who Loki is as a character and who he's going to be moving forward. What realm are we going to see him in? Is he going to continue to be a villain? Is he going to kind of be an anti-hero? Like, what version of Loki are we going to get in phase 4, 5, and 6? Or are we just going to have this Loki show and it won't go anywhere? Like, this will be the end of Loki.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And he's an amazing anti-hero.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to get with Loki. I mean? That's one of the best parts about his character is you don't know if you're going to get, you're watching Loki and you're like, oh my God, he's a hero. He's going to save it. And all of a sudden, boom, he steals something. He blows up something. He stabs somebody. And then you're like, oh, great, Loki. But that's the appeal to him. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, great, Loki's on full-on villain now. And then all of a sudden he tries to save Thor, or he does something where he sacrifices himself. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's like, I like that. And so it's, to me, you don't need anybody anymore, or anybody else. Just wind Loki up and let him go.
Yeah.
Also, in my research, what was interesting, Do you remember that scene where he takes up his glasses and he flirts with the airplane hostess? Or the
Yes.
airplane, right? He jumps out of the plane.
Yeah.
Okay, but do you know he doesn't make it to the surface? You know what happens? Did you see that?
He gets brought into a different.
Yeah, by that Bifrost
Yep.
rainbow colored suction tube. I don't know
Yeah,
what
that was from one of the first trailers, I think.
Oh wow, I didn't notice that. I just
And that was
there we go.
I think if you look at his chest, I think that was a DB Cooper reference.
Yeah.
That Loki is DB Cooper.
Yeah. Somebody makes a good point here, because there was rumors about how them doing something with Howard the Duck, and because Howard the Duck was shown in the collector's in one of the collector's vaults or collector's cages or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's not a bad theory, but I don't think it'll happen. But it's not a bad theory. I like that.
Honestly, I think that if they don't give Deadpool the cameos for Stan Lee, I think it would be kind of funny to have Howard the Duck do the cameos. Just in every single MCU movie, have him be that person.
Yeah.
And living out his life and just being like as goofy as Stan Lee was. I mean, this is actually our first phase where we will have no Stan Lee cameos.
Oh wow, interesting. Good point. Yeah,
there was none in WandaVision. Obviously, I mean that would have been weird. There was none in Falcon Winter Soldier, which I wish that we could have had because I feel like that would have been a really cool thing to have him in that.
Stan Lee, keep him in the movies. Keep it connected to the movies. Keep it connected to the cachet of blockbuster movies. You know, because you got to admit, like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I still yearn to go to a movie and watch a blockbuster out of quality, out of, comprehension blockbuster film.
Yeah, watching like Wonder Woman at home, I couldn't get into it.
Yeah, same thing with Justice League. It was just like,
And I mean, Wonder Woman sucked. It flat out sucked. But
watch it.
Yeah. Kong vs. Godzilla was a phenomenal movie. And I'm like,
oh, that crushed.
As much as I love this movie, I want to be in the theater seeing this. Like, that's something that is theater worthy.
I haven't seen Godzilla because of that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to go with the full experience.
But so let's move on to Star Wars. We've been talking about Loki and kind of MCU.
Don't twist my arm.
So there will be minor spoilers. I don't want to give away too much, but before we do anything, I do want to just kind of say, in the idea of fan service, we are going to also talk about WB and how little fan service they've been giving lately. So that's coming up. And then we're also going to talk about the big announcement that I have that I've kind of been talking about in the community chat a little bit. And I kind of got the go ahead to do it from people who I needed the go ahead from, mainly my wife, because it's going to be like a 4 or 5 hour event live. And we'll go into that very soon. But that's what you have to look forward to. Right now, we're going to get into Bad Batch. And personally, episode 1, I got to give a 9 out of 10.
I gave it an 8.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I did stars on my IG. I did 3 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
The first opening scene up until Caleb escapes, epic.
Oh yeah.
Goosebumps. The animatronics, the visuals, like it. They just stepped it up. The technology
100%
stepped it up. I was just like, what? It was wow. And then after Caleb escaped, it was still amazing. It was just, I just felt
something
like an extension of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can kind of agree with that. I think 9. I think that I'm saying 9, but I'm at an 8, but I want to say 9 because I've always wanted this story told. We've never had the aftermath of Order 66 told.
Yeah.
We've had it told in like very small things. We've had it We've seen it in episode 3, but this got into it so much that we got to see the clone troopers just completely like mesmerized by Palpatine. We got to see them doing whatever they're told, which we had never seen before, even when they were clones and when they were under the Jedi's order and the Jedi were their generals. They were following orders, but they weren't blindly following orders. They were kind of doing what Bad Batch did. We never saw Fives and Rex say, "Oh yeah, let's go kill a bunch of civilians. Let's do that." And honestly, my biggest thing with this that makes total sense is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've never seen a clone kill a living creature up until Order 66. They've always been fighting droids.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, maybe somebody in the chat, because I don't know. Maybe it did happen in maybe some of the books or comics, but I can't think of anything.
So just going into that, it's kind of interesting, the dynamics of the clones, and you kind of get Hunter's point of view in this. Like, these aren't insurgents; these are people. These are people who were literally on your side 5 minutes ago, and you did something so stupid and so out of left field that people are like, I can't get behind that.
Right. Yeah. I like that part too. How they were actually thinking for themselves and going, wait a second, we need more information. This isn't right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and in the comics, they actually, I was watching another stream and they did a good stream on how in the comics, they even got even more in depth and more emotional. You know, that scene where the clone commander turns on his general, which was a Jedi master, Caleb's master. In the comics, they actually showed where they were sitting around a campfire, sharing food, sharing stories, and the next thing you know, so it was pretty heavy. It was a lot heavier in the comics.
Yeah.
And actually, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people are actually upset that they didn't portray it like it was in the comics. But you know, there's only so much time, you know, and only so much they could show. So you know,
this isn't Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Can't drag one fight on for 5 episodes. You got to get to the point at some point.
Did you see episode 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Episode 2, again, I'd give it about an 8. It was dialed back. But I love that they brought back that character from the Clone Wars. From the farm.
Oh, cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, like when they were talking about, I was like, who could their friend be? Like, obviously Rex and Five. I think it was Rex and Fives who originally went to that planet and found him as a deserter in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
For the Bad Batch to be okay with a deserter, that was interesting.
Right.
Like, to call him a friend and to say all of that before Order 66, I found that kind of cool. And then, I mean, Omega was just amazing. Love that character. It is so interesting to see her brain work. The fact that she picked up that blaster, and fired it for the first time completely accurately. It kind of,
let's touch on that.
Okay.
Let's touch on that.
It kind of makes me wonder if Omega is each of the 4 enhancements in one.
Yeah. She's got, my theory is she is either Force sensitive or Night Sister type magic mother, Tesla,
something like that. Yeah.
Some type of magic. But I think she has a little bit of each and every one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rex should show up or have a one shot with Rex.
Rex is a lock. Rex
hope he shows up somewhere. He actually Yeah, he's in the trailer.
Yeah.
He's in the Disney Plus trailer that was. I don't know if they still keep the trailers on after the show premieres. But he was in a scene. I want to say it's probably around episode 4 or 5, based on what we're seeing in just the first two. I don't think we're going to get him in the next iteration of this, the next episode.
Yeah.
I think it's too soon. I think he's going to be that next person who kind of helps them.
That I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they even said in episode 2, I think it was Echo that mentioned something about Captain Rex. And then Cut was like, "Oh, he was here yesterday," you know.
Yeah.
Well alert. So he's definitely a lock. But I think you're right. I think he's gonna show up in 4 or 5.
I would love to see Rex in mainstream live action. Like, just even if it's just the 501st Division Rex 5s, to get them in a live action, I feel like that would be so cool. But clones are difficult live action. And the reason why is because all of them have to look alike as soon as they take their helmets off.
Good point.
So
Yeah, good point.
I think that's one of the reasons Bad Batch is still animated. So I'm hoping with episode 3 we kind of see that speeder scene that we got to see in a city-ish area in the trailer. Where Hunters
Hunters chasing Fennec.
Yep. I think that's going to be episode 3. I think we're going to kind of get more into Tarkin's plot, which obviously we know Tarkin's plot is to kind of wean out people. But I love the way they're doing it. In all honesty, it's very interesting the way that they're taking this very simple show that no one really needed but wanted, if that makes sense. Like, everyone wanted more Bad Batch, but we didn't really need more Bad Batch. It was kind of like, okay, it's a group of clone troopers that are completely off, and they each have a little bit of a different idea. But now we've learned that they were created on purpose. I don't think in the original Clone Wars that was ever said.
What?
That the 5 enhanced soldiers were created on purpose. They tried to build these soldiers as enhanced. We learned that toward the end of episode 1. The Camino was playing around with that.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
So they were actually on purpose?
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go back.
The woman who is always at the prime minister's side,
right,
said Tarkin had said, "How many do you have?" And she said, "We created 5." So it wasn't like 5 were born or 5 were made or that or that.
Right. They're all created. So she might she just used the correct word, but I'm not sure if they created the mutations on purpose, though.
I want to say that she mentioned something along the lines of it being.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and
purposeful.
Watch. That's important to me. I think
so. In the chat, anyone who's watching right now, if you go back to the little battle scene where Tarkin is testing them, that's the scene I'm talking about. And there might have been some more hints throughout episode 1 as well. But that's the kind of the scene that I remember her talking more about it. And it's also interesting that Omega is kind of like her personal assistant. Did you notice that?
Yes, because I was wondering, I was sitting there because she had a different uniform.
Yeah.
And I'm going, why? It was bugging me. I'm like, why does she have a different uniform? And it was like, boom, Lama Su, or I believe her name's Lama Su.
I think so.
Yeah, she's the one that had exact same outfit.
Yep.
And a lot of times parents, you're a parent, I'm a parent, so a lot of times parents have to be careful that they don't put their own things on the child. You know what I mean? And it's sometimes parents do that. You see fathers dressing the sons like them, or the mothers dressing. You know what I mean? It's like, so Lama Su, all of a sudden I was like,
Yep. It's interesting.
Has an interest, is more than just clinical interest in Omega.
Yep.
You know? So I think that was very telling, because it also explained how it explains why she also helped them.
Definitely.
Because if she was strict, okay, I got to do my job, which is for the Empire, she would close those doors.
Oh, but as soon as Tarkin showed up, she was so against him. It was actually kind of funny to see how much she despised him in the first 5 seconds of him even opening his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, just everything he said, she's like...
kind of easy to despise him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, so he was kind of talking, and so the main premise of episode 1, not really to give away any major spoilers, but the main premise is Tarkin wants to know, is it worth creating all of these clones still? Is this something that the Empire should continue with? And as we know from Star Wars lore, they don't end up continuing with the clones. And I feel like this is kind of going to get into a little bit more of the why of that. And I think we're going to learn something about the cloning process. And obviously, I can't remember what it was that talked about the clones, which it was a movie or something that kind of talked about the last clones dying off. And I remember asking my dad when episode 2 came out, I was like, so you had all of these clones, what happened to them between the Clone Wars ending, and then all of a sudden when you have episode 4, 5, and 6, they're no longer clones? And he basically explained it to me as this. The clones had obviously that growth enhancement so that they could grow quicker and be ready to fight quicker all of that. Yeah. And that worked out perfectly during a war. But as soon as that kind of kicks in and they get to that point where now they're not needed and they're still aging at that same rate, they age so quickly. They live for 30 years, but it's like they're an 80-year-old man.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of explained to me then, but then I remember seeing or hearing in some movie or show way back that the clones kind of aged out. They could no longer, they weren't a viable option because they were getting too old too quick. And the Empire needed some longevity. And that's kind of why they started doing stormtroopers and not just the clone troopers.
Yeah. And also too, that makes perfect sense. It just makes perfect sense on why they would try to switch.
Yeah. So what did you like most about Bad Batch?
That was a good point. Alexander Garcia makes. I heard it was because they didn't have Django's DNA no longer.
That was another thing, which I also wondered why they never used Boba's DNA.
Good point.
Or could they not use it because he was a clone?
Right, you're right. Good point.
I don't know. That's another thing. Or I mean, come on, there's plenty of bounty hunters in Star Wars. Kamino could have easily paid another one. They were getting paid God only knows how much for the millions upon millions of clones that the Jedi ordered. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're waiting for another. I guess they were waiting for Grogu.
Yeah.
They were waiting for a force sensitive something to take that type of DNA and that to clone those types of people.
I wonder if we're going to get more Kamino now with Grogu. Because we really haven't gotten any more Kamino.
I think so.
I hope so. I love Kamino. It's such an interesting planet.
Angle.
Yeah.
Story arc.
But anyways, what was your favorite part about Bad Batch?
Episode 1 or episode 2?
Just what we've seen so far.
Again, just unlocking and unfolding of the Bad Batch history.
Okay.
And seeing where that goes, if it's going to go beyond this. And then also the introduction of Omega.
Yeah. Same here.
At first, I was like, okay, Ezra, Ahsoka, Grogu, what's with this teen brigade? You know what I mean? Like, what's all these kids? But after the second season, I was like, you know what? I'm really starting to like where this is going. I'm really starting to where this is headed. I like it.
For sure. And I mean, now we're going to get a Boba Fett show and so much more. But if Boba is a clone, how did he not age so fast as the other clones? So they explain this in episode 2. Boba was completely unaltered. He was a pure clone, and literally Jango raised Boba from birth and taught him everything as Jango learned it.
And I think that was part of his deal. He said, "Oh yeah, but I want one for me that's untouched."
And I honestly wonder if Kamino was supposed to not actually build the Bad Batch. I wonder if they did it on purpose. Was that something that they did under the table that no one was supposed to know about?
This is the second time you've mentioned that. I think you really are on. You like it,
I want it to happen.
It'll be interesting to see, and that's just the whole unfolding of the Bad Batch story. You know, was it done on purpose? Was it done not on purpose?
Yeah.
You know, I'm leaning towards not.
For sure. What's up, Hoarder's Hide? Good to see you. If you guys haven't seen Hoarder's Hide, he has a phenomenal collection. Much, much bigger than mine. Not as big as Mile High Comics, but it's a phenomenal collection. His videos are absolutely amazing. You need to go check him out. He does great work.
I actually just friended him today. I think so. Because I'm agreeing with the HH.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's funny.
He's in the community chat. He's one of the guys.
Okay. That's wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and he actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but Hoarders just got into cleaning and pressing books a couple months ago too. So honestly, I feel like just moving on from all of this, let's start talking about non-fan service. What fan service does not look like. And WB just basically gave the middle finger to every single DC fanboy, whether it's a DC EU fanboy or a DC Comics fanboy. And from what I'm understanding, completely fired Henry Cavill.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Say that again?
They fired Henry Cavill as Superman.
Why?
Because they want to move forward with the Superman character. And he does not, from what I'm getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, chat, he doesn't embody the route they want to take with Superman from here on out. They've told the Superman story they want to tell, and now they're going to have a black Superman. They're going to move into that storyline. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And the way that they're doing it, as they've been saying, is multiverse.
So if they're going to do multiverse, then you can keep Henry Cavill.
Exactly. I just think that they want to not allow Snyder to do anything else with the DC characters. And I think if you get rid of his most successful character, you get rid of the chance of restoring the Snyderverse. And I think that's where they're kind of headed. But I've said for forever, DC needs to just buy out WB. They need to be done with that contract or whatever. However they can get away from WB and create their own studio, that's what they need to do.
Well, you're mentioning WB. Does Henry Cavill have a contract with WB? Is he?
So DC
Superman in movies. Henry Cavill.
DC makes their movies through Warner Brothers.
Oh, that's what you mean by WB.
Yes. Yep.
I was mistaking you when you were saying WB. I was mistaken for the TV channel.
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
Not the TV channel. The
WB
conglomerate, Warner Brothers.
I was thinking of a TV channel WB, like a C. I thought it was like a CW, and then I was just like,
that's the other one that they own too.
Okay, all right.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, they basically said F you to all of the DC extended universe. I mean, if you get rid of him, you're getting rid of 10 years of build up to a Justice League movie that finally was done correctly. I don't want to say it was done perfect because it wasn't. There were things in there that I just didn't like, but I don't want to get into that because I could spend 4 hours talking about it.
Yeah, I'm not really big into DC, and so I don't really have that much insight, and also
Yeah.
and then when you start getting into this starts getting into the area of how DC, Marvel, and a lot of these companies are just, in my opinion, they're just too much on this social justice kick. And it's really starting to kill a lot of characters. Like even seeing Conan reminds me of they just casted Red Sonja.
Yeah.
She doesn't have red hair. I'm like, really?
Yep.
Guys, did you really have to go there? So I'm starting, the whole Marvel DC social justice kick is really starting to wear on me. And it actually is, I have a theory. To me is what's fueling this huge indie kick. Like indie are on a rip right now. And to me, I think that's what's fueling it. Because I've talked to a lot of guys who are doing the indie thing, and they've mentioned that.
Yep. Not just that, but the indie books are actually coming out on nice paper.
I heard that too. That's funny. I heard that too.
Spawn. One of the only indie books I pick up. And Geiger. The other indie book I just picked up recently.
Yeah, I heard it, yeah.
I mean,
I even picked up some indies. I picked up 2 Nocturas and 9/8.
This I picked up simply because someone said that it was absolutely phenomenal. It's such an interesting read, and I totally agree. But this cover feels like cardboard covers. It's not that glossy paper. Have you picked up any crossover books?
I know what you mean. I call it cardstock.
Yeah, it's kind of cardstock, yes. Not cardboard.
I don't know if that's the right lingo, but cardstock is what I call it.
Yeah, it's not like that glossy paper. It's kind of like Marvel kind of saves that for their big books. And I understand it's more expensive to print on. But if Image can do it for $2.99, or this was $3.99, if Image can do it for $3.99, so can anyone else.
Wow. Maybe, and that's another appeal to the indies, because I think didn't Marvel and DC raise their prices?
Most Marvel books are still at $3.99. There's a few that come out at $4.99. I'm trying to think of which ones do. Right here, the ones that I have in front of me are all $3.99. The first Clone Saga was $4.99.
Oh, okay.
So I think a lot of like their first major story arcs come out as $4.99. This one, 175, was $4.99.
And then maybe I'm thinking DC, or maybe it's just DC's Black Label that are more expensive.
Black Label's expensive. I have one right here because my wife is the only thing my wife reads is Black Label, and each of these books are $5.99, and most of them are actually $7.99 or even $8.99.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I actually want to. I'm curious if I can get this graded, because if you look at it,
they'll grade it. They'll grade it.
I mean, it's huge.
They'll grade it. That reminds me of some of those TMNT books. Some of the TMNT books are in big holders.
Okay.
You know how TMNT books are big?
Yeah.
The new ones, the Ronin ones.
Yep.
Yeah, they grade all those.
Okay.
So they'll definitely grade.
I've just never seen one that big graded, I guess. Even my biggest book that I have graded is that Flash 750. It's one of those thick books. So yeah. Let's see. Superman rankings in my book: Reeve, Cavill, Reeves, Kane. Although I would watch reruns of Lois and Clark before I would watch any other Superman movie or series, I can agree. I'm not a fan of Superman movies. Honestly, Superman is best done in animated because they can make him look how they want him to look, it's very hard to pull off that Superman look.
Yeah.
It is.
I like Reeves. I don't know if it's because I grew up with that or not, but I like Christopher Reeves. I don't know. I like him, and I like the movies he was in. Yeah, you look back at it and you go, "Oh my God, bro, this is." But it was good for the time. For the time, it was pretty advanced.
Blue Label is more than Black Label. Interesting.
Titan says you'll have to grade it as a magazine because of the size.
Okay.
Thanks, Titan.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to say the least that all of this is kind of happening with DC. I've said for years I want DC to be more successful. I want them to give Marvel something to kind of say, wow, we need to step up our game, because we actually have some competition. Not that DC's not competition right now. I don't want to say that wrong. I think the DC has
competition.
I will say the DC has some good stuff out there. The Flash TV show has been pretty phenomenal for every season. There's been like some little things where I'm like, okay, maybe I wouldn't have gone that direction. Green Arrow was phenomenal up until about season 4 or 5, and then it kind of started to fade away. But the writing gets difficult when you're doing 20 episodes a year. I mean, that's not easy, and that's why I think Marvel's kind of doing it 8 or 9, 6, 7, 8 or 9 for each of their shows, because it's tough to extend a story that long and still have content at the end to then tell after.
I'm going to say one word. Titans.
Don't like it?
No, actually, I heard the show is really good.
Okay.
But there's no buzz.
Yeah.
There's zero buzz about Titans. Zero. The books do zero. And it's like, wow. But yet so many people in the chat can maybe let us know how they feel about Titans. But I heard this past season and right now, I heard it's gotten really good.
And I've heard the same thing. And I want to watch it.
Well, there's no buzz.
But yeah.
It's like, DC, what are you doing? Yeah, same thing with me, Hoarders Hide. DC's dead to me. I just don't get what they're doing over there. It's like DC's too busy watching Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh wait a minute, we should do
how
something.
can we be like them?
Yeah, but they just watch and they don't do anything about it.
And I've always said I don't want DC to be Marvel, and I never want Marvel to be DC. I want them to be separate, but I want them to compete. I want them to say, okay, Marvel did Endgame. How can we do an Endgame level event?
Right.
Not let's do Justice League, and hopefully it's an Endgame level event in one movie. It took Marvel 22 movies to get there.
Right.
Like,
and I think DC tried to do an Endgame level thing with their Justice League.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, you know, they brought a bunch of superheroes together, Justice League, but DC just tripped over their own beep.
you didn't have a character, a villain that had a good enough story to tell. Yes, Darkseid's a phenomenal villain. Yes, he's a great character visually, because as a non-DC fan, but who knows enough about DC history to appreciate it, like when I watched Justice League, visually, Steppenwolf and Darkseid crushed. That was like, their DC villains are almost Marvel level. Yep.
They don't, but you can't get attached to them like Thanos because they didn't tell the story they just didn't.
Exactly. And they jumped around so much.
Yeah, it was just, I just couldn't get into it. But visually, Steppenwolf, Snyder Steppenwolf was off the chain.
Oh, for sure.
Darkseid was just badass. Like, I was just like, wow.
And I honestly wish that Steppenwolf was the Loki to Darkseid, that we never saw Darkseid until post-credits of Justice League 1. And then we kind of started to see him a little bit more as the movies went on. And then it led up to Darkseid.
If DC was smart, if DC was
smart,
they would have really pushed more of the Steppenwolf Darkseid relationship to each other.
Yeah.
You know, instead of because we already know who Batman is, we already know
Yep.
Aquaman, we already know all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all you need to do to appease us is just put them on the screen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And let them do their thing. Where to get the fans hooked and the people hooked, they should have really elaborated and got into Darkseid and Steppenwolf.
And chat, you can agree with me or disagree with me, but I do not need Bruce Wayne riding a horse for 5 minutes across a mountain in a movie. There was no reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And so much time was wasted on like, you know, silly banter of, oh, what do you
Lomo.
Are you a superhero? Oh, I'm rich. Oh, is this your plane? Oh, I got 2 of them. Or oh, I'm making it bigger. Like it was just like I don't need that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's perfect in a trilogy. The silly banter, the characters kind of interacting with each other, getting to know each other, is perfect for a trilogy.
Or for the trailers. You know what I mean? Those little snippets. You know what I mean? Like that's a great snippet for a trailer. What are your powers again? I'm rich. Like that's a great snippet for a trailer. Keep it out of the movie. Let it stay in the trailer.
Yep.
You know, like DC.
It's almost like DC's like sitting there just they shot themselves in the foot and WB shot themselves in the foot and they're kind of like, who just shot me? Like you did. This is your fault.
And Gal Gadot, did she look a little like, I don't know. She didn't look like in her usual good shape. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I was looking at her. I was like, wow, Wonder Woman. What happened? Oh, I don't know. Get back to the gym a little bit, babe.
That's what happens when you're worried about your sequel movie coming out and you're like, I'm going to eat my feelings because this sucked and it was done horribly. DC is dark. They should embrace it and go. See, they need to embrace the darkness, but at the same time, they need little pieces of humanity in there.
No, let's go dark. Let's go dark, man. Because I'm glad he said that. Because what crushed for DC in this past 2 years? What crushed? What really gave people hope for DC?
Joker.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Yep. Good one. Joker crushed. Why? It was dark. Yep. They do dark so good.
Oh, yeah.
Rain. Leave the happiness, unicorns, and lollipops to Marvel. You know?
And then they come out and they say, oh, by the way, Joker's not actually in the DC extended universe. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
You finally have a movie that you've given us that has met everything we've been asking for out of you. And now you're saying it's not in the extended universe? Why?
Right. Why even say it? Like, why even say it? You know what I mean? And also, too, once again, because I relate to the general public, the general public's not going to even know what that even means. They're like, extent what?
Yeah.
And Alice toward the light running and screaming. She was probably 8 months pregnant while filming. Is she?
Possibly. Go down the rabbit hole and don't look back. I think people in charge of DC movies are not comic book fans and don't stop to think or have even read comic books ever. Honestly, I completely agree. VK, I know you've got to head out, so I'm going to continue to talk about some of this, and I'm also going to do our announcement. So, VK, while you're still here, I just want to do the announcement real quick. Basically, Comics Lounge is coming up on a year, and I want to thank the community, and I want to give back to the community. And the biggest way that I love giving back to the community is through just fun kind of charity work. And I think that that's the best way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some people together, and this can be done in a ton of different ways. And basically my thought is to get 5, 6, maybe 7 auctioneers and kind of do a charity auction of comic books. each person in the auction can kind of choose their own charity, and they can sell and claim and auction off any books they want to, and they can choose their own charity, or they can choose to give it to the charity that I'm going to choose. And since my brother has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, I'm going to choose, as I've done for years and years, the Parent Project of Muscular Dystrophy. So the Parent Project of Muscular Dystrophy is an association of parents who are fighting to get rid of Duchenne muscular dystrophy and the 45 other forms of muscular dystrophy, including MS, Lou Gehrig's, all of that stuff. It's craziness, and I might be off on that number. 45 was the number that came to mind. There's tons of different forms that affect kids in all different ways. My brother's 23. He's been in a wheelchair since he was in 4th grade, and just kind of declined from there. And I love giving back. So this is the way that I want the channel to kind of give back. And I'm hoping to get, like I said, 5 or 6 auction panelists to be willing to kind of give those profits. So I've got a few books that I'm going to be selling and auctioning off. And then anyone else who wants to join, message me on Instagram, the Comics Lounge. Make sure you do the one with our logo that is up here, because there are a few different Comics Lounges. I didn't know that when I created the channel, but that's kind of my goal. And I hope that we can just make this big. So there's my big announcement. VK, nice. I hope you have an awesome night.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you once again.
Thank you. Thank you as always. Count me in for sure. If there's room, I'll definitely jump in. And awesome. Definitely contact him, sub him up on IG, sub him up on YouTube. And you can always get me on VK on Comics IG, and also on YouTube, VK on Comics. And every Friday here, 7 p.m. PST, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everybody. Ciao.
Sounds good. See you soon.
Always a great chat. Thanks. Be good, Chris.
Yeah. All right. So again, that's going to be happening toward the end of June. There's going to be more details coming out as time goes on. I want to get the panelists together. I want to kind of talk about when the best time is. I'm thinking probably like a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, and kind of just go from there. Again, toward the end of June. Don't know anything solid yet, but this is the big announcement that I was talking about on Instagram today. So I hope that you guys can kind of help get behind this and support it. And anytime we share anything about it, please, please, please save it and share it out, so that way we can get as much hype for this as possible. And we'll just go from there. But anyways, I want to continue to talk about comics. One of my biggest things with comics is just the community behind it. And I've said for years and years how amazing the comic community is. And chat, you guys can back me up, because you're still here watching. You're still here listening to me and VK rant on and on and on. But it's also now the movies. And here's my biggest thing. And this is what we're going to be talking about next week. DC's come out with a lot of movies. Marvel's come out with a lot of shows. DC's come out with a lot of shows. Have you noticed the difference in comic books? The differences in spec? Has anyone else seen that? I've found this very interesting, and I really want to dive into this again next week, because it's weird the ways that we're kind of seeing Marvel books shoot up in price whenever there's an announcement, a possibility of this or that, or a reveal. And then DC, like we said, Titans is phenomenal. People have been talking about Titans for a while now, but there's no hype behind it. Titans is a good show. Yeah, I like watching it. It's good. It's like people will affirm that it's a good show, that people like it, all of that. Same way they'll do with Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. When that first came out, people were saying how they enjoyed it. Has anyone noticed that there really hasn't been a whole lot of jump in price? And that might just be me, but I want to kind of talk about an app real quick. And I don't normally do this, And this is not at all subsidized or them giving me money to do this or them saying, hey, go do this for us, because they don't need it. Key Collector Comics is an amazing app, and it talks all about spec, all about the comics you should be picking up, how much you should be paying for them. Are the prices going up? Are they going down? And we've talked about this a little bit over the past few times, VK and I. So one of the biggest things, let me see. All right, so this actually really affirms this. As you scroll through here, I know it's going to be kind of hard to see on the camera. As you scroll through here, you can see Marvel movies and TV, character variants, streaming shows, HBO Max, Netflix, Prime Video, keys by budget, character previews, reading orders, and you can keep scrolling down. You get to the Star Wars category with Yoda right there and the Star Wars logo. But we haven't seen a jump. And this is what I'm saying. Like, there is almost no reference to anything that is DC related. And Hoarders, you said it perfectly. DC never gets any love. Just look at the Golden Age DC books versus Silver Age Marvel. The first appearance of Superman, obviously that's never going to go down. That's never going to shoot up because he's in a movie. He's been in 1,000 different movies and shows and all that. Same with Batman. But let's talk about a character that's never really been live action in the modern age. Aquaman. Did you see a jump in Aquaman when his movie came out? I didn't. And again, I don't know how much the first Aquaman appearance is right now, or how much it ever really was before. But so, Hoarders, you're saying yes, there was a jump. But honestly, there's not as much hype behind it. Him and Wonder Woman both. Okay. So when they first appeared, there was some hype. Again, I wasn't very much into comics back then, so I didn't see it. But it's interesting how we're consistently seeing this with Marvel, but we're inconsistently seeing it with DC. And I completely agree. It's because DC doesn't have a lot of love for it. And I don't know why. They've got amazing characters. DC truly has some amazing heroes and some really sick villains. So with all of that, I want to leave us there. I don't want to get too much into this. I haven't done a whole lot of research on it. I just kind of wanted to talk about it for what it's worth, and then to kind of move on and move into that next episode with this kind of in your mind, because that's kind of what we're going to talk about next week. So I'm at the 1.5 hour mark almost. It has been an absolute pleasure. As always, if you are not subscribed, make sure that you go down there and you hit that subscribe button. You smash that like button. And when you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because that's the most important part. That's how small YouTubers like myself and VK get your recognition. That's how we get you guys to keep coming back every single time, because you're getting those notifications. And honestly, it's a ton of fun chatting with you guys. Hoarders Hide, thank you for joining us tonight. Past Point Comics, it's been a pleasure. Titan Comic Pressing, I look forward to our conversations on the next few lives. Alex Garcia, it was a pleasure having you tonight. Blue Devils 79, it was awesome having you. Maverick, amazing. I hope that Mephisto does make an appearance in something. We are Groot, and as always, loungers unite. Thank you for lounging with us. Again, it's been a pleasure.
The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves. Earth's mightiest heroes.
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
I still have 3 of you watching. Shout out to everyone who was there for our 500 subscriber giveaway. Thank you for supporting us. And next week, I look forward to talking about so much more because it's absolutely amazing news. Let's see where everything goes from here because we should see some pretty awesome stuff. Next giveaway will be at the 750 subscriber mark. That's where I'm aiming next. And with all that being said, thank you for lounging with us. Loungers, #Loungers Unite. See ya. I'm ending it here. Goodbye.